In this video, I'm going to show you how to insert the interior exterior doors and windows on this project. So the first thing you need to do is open up your project and go to the main level floor plan. And at this point, you should see something similar to what I have right here. Now you'll notice that any dimensions that I had on there, I have deleted out and essentially just made a fairly clean uh, plan view looking at the garage walls, exterior walls, interior walls of this project. So the way you insert doors and windows, it goes back to essentially everything we've talked about so far, and that is we are placing components in a model. So the one thing about doors and windows is you can't just throw them in random space. Doors and windows have to be hosted by another element. So as we look at our walls, and if you think about how a door and window works, is that they are built within the wall. So the wall actually becomes the host of the door and window. That'll be a little bit different when we talk about components in the next video, but for now, let's focus on doors. So to insert a door, we're going to come up here to our tab, make sure you're on architecture, and we're going to select the door icon. And in our properties window, we will see the single flush 36 by 84 inch door. I'm going to go ahead and select on the down menu here, and you'll notice that's all I have. Okay, so we don't have a lot of doors in here, although we do have the ability to load more doors in here. Now, I'll go back and emphasize again, the reason when you begin a project in a template, why it doesn't have all of the components is simply because components are loaded into projects, and components, when they're loaded into projects, takes up space in that file. So if you have too many components in a drawing, then your drawing can become massively large. And so ultimately, we don't want to necessarily put any more components in there, doors, windows, so on and so forth, than what is actually required. So to load another door, I'm going to come over here on my ribbon and go to Load Family. This will take us to our US Imperial Library. And I'm going to go down to the folder that says Doors. Now, in the newer databases or libraries here, within the last couple of years, they've changed the formatting just a little bit. And they've added some subfolders or nested folders. So I'm going to come here to Residential. And on the residential, I'm going to start off and I'm going to pick a 4-panel interior wood. Now note that when I select the panel over here on the right hand side towards the top of the dialog box, you'll see a preview of what that will be. You can use the arrows, the up and down arrows on your keyboard also to scroll through the different types of doors. So often when I'm in a library, if I'm not quite sure what I'm looking for, but I know I'm in the correct nested folder, I will just start scrolling down until I find the door that I want. So now that I've got this door selected, I'm going to go ahead and say open. And now it's going to bring me to another box that'll allow me to specify which specific doors I want to bring in. This is also new to Rev in the last couple of years. And again, so we've started loading a family, and these are all the family types within. Well, to save space within our actual file, we don't necessarily have to bring in all of the specific doors. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to select the ones that I think will be most probable that we'll use. And the first thing, if I scroll down here, that you'll notice is we have some dimensions by, and then we've got 80 inches, and then we go up to 84 inches. So a standard door in residential construction is 80 inches at 6'8". 84 inches, which is 7 foot, that would be more what you would find in a commercial type building. Now that's traditional standard. We do recognize it in today's ability to manufacture and some of the things we've seen in homes that we do see 7-foot, 8-foot, 9-foot. I've even seen 10-foot doors in some nice luxury homes. So we're going to stick with the 80-inch, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, okay, I don't know that I have anything less than a 24-inch door, so I'm going to highlight that, and then holding my shift key down, we'll see if it works this way. I'm going to select the 36, and that's going to select that series of doors between 24 inches and 36 inches by 80 inches. I'll go ahead and say okay, and it'll take 1 second. It's loading those doors in, and after that has been loaded in, we'll see over here in the properties dialog box, or the properties window in the upper left hand side, that we will have all of our doors that we've just selected to bring in. So it's going to take me just 1 second there for that to process. While that's still processing, let me come back to our floor plan here. So what we'll notice here on the floor plan, we have a bunch of passage doors. Okay, so that's what we're actually dealing with. We call these a passage door. This would be a single passage door. We have passage doors here in the closet, which would be considered a double. And then we will also be dealing with what we call an overhead door, which is what we would see. It's actually a sectional overhead door that we would see in the garage. The other thing I just point out here really quickly, we do have a door schedule on sheet 200, and here it tells us what our width is and what our heights. Doors and windows, typically on the call outs, your width is always given first, and then the height is always given second. All right, so when that comes up in just 1 second, we're going to start off here, and we're going to look at doors number 110, 111, and 112. So really quickly on my schedule, 110, 111, and 112. So we've got a 30-inch door, 30-inch door, and a 28-inch door. Now, I know we don't talk much about code in this class, but when it comes to the International Residential Code, going into a room like a bedroom, minimum width is going to be 30 inches. A closet like this will typically be minimum, or in our case will be 2 foot 4 inches or 28 inches. And even though we have 30 inches going called out into the bathroom here, a minimum door in a bathroom could also be 28 inches. Okay, so let's see how we've done here. Looks like I need to save that project, and hopefully we will be up and running here. Okay, so now that I've done that, you can see here's our single, so that's our single passage door, and it's a 4-panel. You can see that's the 4-panel right there. And as I click on my properties menu, you can see there we go. I brought in doors 24 inches all the way up to 36 inches. The other thing I would just mention here really quickly, in standard doors, the width grows in 2-inch increments. That's pretty standard. Okay, so we are going to look at our doors, which are at this point a passage door going into the bedroom area, the bathroom area, and then in the closet area. So the doors 110 and 111 were both 30-inch doors. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to select that. You can see I've got a 30-inch door, and you'll notice here in my main space that I've got that little do not, or the circle with the diagonal line through it. And when you see that, when you're in some type of a mode where you're placing something, that just simply means that you can't place it there. As I was saying earlier in this video, that when it comes to doors and windows, they are required to be hosted by a wall. So you'll notice when I come and hover over that wall, now all of a sudden I've got that door. Now you'll notice that depending on what side of the wall that I bring my cursor to, that door will flip back and forth. And the other really quick thing I'll show you, even though this is in the correct orientation, if I take my space bar on my keyboard and I press it, it will change the swing back and forth. So you need to get the door going on the correct side, and then you can use the space bar to toggle whether it's going to be a left-hand or right-hand swing. So I'm going to go ahead and place that door. Come down here, got to flip that the other direction. I'm going to place the 30-inch door here. Come over here to my properties menu. I'm going to change that to my 24-inch door. And I believe it was going that direction. And I've already put an incorrect size. That was not a 24-inch door. That was a 2-foot 4-inch door. So sometimes in my own mind, I make the translations incorrect in my mind. A 2-foot 4-inch door is not a 24-inch door, it's a 28-inch door. So just like we did in the walls, if you do place something incorrect, as I did right here, I'm going to go ahead and select this 24-inch door. And in my properties window, I can come up here and I can come down and select my 2-foot 4-inch door or my 28-inch door, and you'll see that that is now the correct door, so I can just substitute it. Let me go back here to the plan. Okay, so if we look right here, I'm going to show you two really quick things. So oftentimes doors will not have dimensions as far as the placement. So when I'm looking at door number 110 and 111, you'll see that the door doesn't really give me a dimension off of either wall where that is. So many times when you have this situation, if you're looking at the face of the wall here and the edge of the wall right here, it's very likely that that door is being centered between those two locations. Same thing with door number 110, from the outside edge here to the inside edge here, that is going to be centered. Now, one reason for that is from an architectural standpoint, from an aesthetic or visual standpoint, the distance between this wall to the edge of the door and the distance of the edge of the door outside to the corner would be equal. So visually, that becomes kind of the driving factor right there. That's a little bit different when we look at door number 112. We have what it appears to be 2 foot 7 inches. So having that information, let's go ahead and I'm going to go to annotate, add a dimension line, and from the inside to the edge of that, well, it shouldn't be the edge to the door, that should be to the edge of the opening right there. So I'm going to put that dimension in, and now again, because I want to move the door, I need to select the door as the object that I want to move. I'll go ahead and key in 2 foot 7 inches, and that should now be in that correct location. Now, how do I center these two doors? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to again go to annotate. I'm going to put in a temporary dimension. I'm going to come off of the face of, I'm going off the face of core right here to the center of my door, to the face of core on this door. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here, I'm going to click, and then before I do anything else, notice on my active dimension, I've got this EQ with the slash through there. That EQ stands for equal. So with the little slash strike through means it's not equal. If I hover over there and if I click, it will move my door automatically. So it's equal between the two witness lines on the outside of that string of dimensions. If I go ahead and hit so it says unequal again, the door will not move again, but you'll see my dimensions are now in the equal locations. So once I've done that, I'm going to get rid of those dimensions now. I know that that door is in the location that I want. I could go through the same process and center this door. However, I know the center line of this door equals the center line of this door just based on the geometry of the wall. So I'm going to come up here to modify, and using my align tool, I'm going to come to the door that's in the correct position. And if I go to about the center, you will see this little line representing the center of the door come up. I'm going to click right there, and then I'm going to come to the other door, and just move back and forth till you find where it hits the center. I'm going to click there, and you'll see that that door shifts into that correct location. Okay, so we've got those two doors in there now. Let's take a quick look and see what we've got going on the other side of the house here. So in our case right here, I can see I've already got one issue going on. Let's go ahead and put in doors number 106, 107, and 109. So 106, we have a 28-inch door. We have 107, which is a 38-inch door, and 109, which is a 36-inch door. Okay, so see if I can remember these. So the door that comes where our little coat closet is, that is again, looks like we don't have a door label there. So I'm assuming, oh, I wasn't even looking at that one. Okay, so I'm gonna assume that's door number 108. No, it's not door number 108. Not sure what door that is. We'll put a door in there irregardless. Okay, so door number 106, that was the door that was 28 inches. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to go to architecture, select door, and I'm going to go to my 28-inch door. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place that door right here. I'm just going to go ahead and stick this door here. I'm just going to put in the 28 door for now. I might substitute that out in just a minute. Okay, let's go to our 30-inch door, which is in the bedroom. We'll place it right there for a moment, and then I'm going to take my 36-inch door, and once again, use that space bar to flip that door to the correct direction, and I will place that in there. Okay, so here's what I do know in terms of placement. I'm going to use that same trick, go to annotate, align, and I'm going to go from the inside wall of my pantry, center of door, to inside wall, and I'm going to click on the equal, and then I'm going to unclick. The reason I click it so it's unequal again is if I leave it there and if I try to delete the dimension, I'll get an error that comes up. It says warning. I can still say, okay, yeah, we're going to unconstrain that. That's fine, but it's an extra step. So if you make it unequal, if you have every intention of deleting it, I find it speeds up that process. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing on my little coat closet door here. I'm going to center that to the inside. And then I'll do that one last time with the door that's going into the great room area. Okay, so that's how I centered those relative to those different positions. I want to just take a quick look at just visually at our door right here. That door actually does look a little bit smaller. So why don't we come back here now and say, you know what, we're not going to do a 28-inch door. Let's do a 24-inch door. It looks a little bit small. I'm going to take that to a 26-inch door. Okay, so now we've got those doors in there. And what I was noticing on my previous, this wall actually was incorrect and should have only come to that point. Instead of dragging that back, I could have simply used my trim command to trim that door. So again, I've said this time and time again, that as you go through, it's hard to make too many mistakes on this. If you do, and you will make some errors at any given points, it's easy to make those quick corrections. Okay, so It looks like I've got 3 more doors on this level, uh, interior doors that is, that we want to look at. And when I say 3 doors, we're going to talk about this door that comes here into the laundry room, 105, door number 108, which is a double door going into the closet. And then the other door, which isn't really a door, but Revit classifies it under the door section, is we have this little opening. And I want to show you how to create an opening in a wall. But first, let's go back here to architecture, to door. And we're going to go ahead, because we don't have any double doors, I'm going to come up here to load family. And I was taken back to where I was at. So here I'm in the residential. I don't want a single. I want a double door. And let's just see what we have here in terms of double. So there's not actually a lot. I'm actually a little bit disappointed in this one, because our double door, we'll select this one right here, is not a 4 panel, it's a 2 panel. So disappointed because we can't really match the interior doors. If you were in fact doing this as a working set of drawings, you would most likely have matching doors. But at this point, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to go ahead and say open. And I'm going to select on the 4, hold the shift key down, and I'm going to go to 6. That'll bring all of our 80-inch doors in. I'm going to go ahead and say okay. It's actually overkill on this project, because while that's loading once again, if we come back here to door number 105 and door number 108, we're going to come over here and look at our door schedule. So we've got a 48-inch and we've got a double, double 48-inch. So both of those are 48-inch doors. So here we have our 48-inch door. So once again, oh, look at that. I did not bring the correct door in. Let me go back to the load family. And so what I grabbed was a pocket door. And what I don't see here is a double door. I'm going to go back out 1 level, because I know this is nested down in. Let's just make sure I don't have any type of double door that we can. You know, just for the sake of just making things somewhat simple, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use this double flush panel. So I'm going to go ahead and open that, and I'm just going to select the 68-inch by 80. It's the closest thing I have. We're going to go ahead and open that. Okay, so you can see that at least in terms of the door action, that is the correct door we want, but it's not the correct size. So I'm going to go back here to edit type, and I will duplicate that and change that to 48 inches. And I'll need to make sure that here on my width that I also change that to 4 feet. Go ahead and say okay. And now as I bring that door in there, you can see that it looks a little bit more correct. Now, once again, I'm going to go back and do the exact same thing. I'm going to center this door between the inside of the wall here and that portion of the wall right there, and just equal that. And I'll come and I'm going to center this set of doors to those 2 locations. Try that one more time. I escaped out of my dimension, and once I do that, it's a little bit more complicated to center. So let me make sure I hit the equal and unequal. There we go. And we are there. Okay, so again, we have this little opening. Let me bring that back up. We have the opening that we want to place right that point. So I'm going to go to architecture. I'm going to go to door. I'm going to load family type. Now, I know seems a little bit redundant, but that's the point in learning how to do all this redundancy. Practice, practice, practice. The more time you do it, the more you're going to learn it. And I'm going to see, and I don't see here. That I have an opening. Okay, it looks like we're actually one level out. So here's the door opening here that's right under doors, one level out, not in the residential. So I'm going to go ahead and say open. And you can see this opening loaded automatically. It is 36 by 84. Let's see what else we have in there. Looks like we actually have quite a few. Let me go back to the plan here. I really don't have any measurements there. But if I'm looking at that, I'm going to say that's about a 28-inch opening. So do we have a 28-inch opening? No, the smallest we have is 30. I'm just going to go to edit type, duplicate. I'm going to go ahead and make a 28-inch opening. So make it the right name. And then my rough width will be 28 inches or 2 foot 4 inches. Going to go ahead and say okay. And then again, that has to be hosted by a wall. So I'm going to go ahead and just place that. And so you can see that that opening looks very similar to what we have on the actual drawing. Okay, we do want to add 3 more doors before I show you how to go ahead and do the windows. So those 3 doors are going to be our front door. We have a side door going into the garage, and then we have our overhead sectional door that we have on the garage as well. So we're just going to use the same passage doors, the 4 panel that we've already inserted in the project. That front door is going to be 36 inches. So I'm going to just place that generally in that location. Same thing with my door in the garage. Let me see what I have as far as a dimension to the front door. So if I look at the front door dimension here, it is, if I add 5'2" to 6'10" to the center, that's 12 foot from 24 foot. So that's actually just dead center on the front there. And then I know we don't have an actual dimension here, so I'm going to have you guys put this in here from edge of wall to center of door at 6 foot 6 inches. So come back here, and I'm going to start again with my lines here. I'm just going to use that method right there once again, so I know that door's centered. And let me come back here to the garage. So I'll go outside corner to center of the door. I want that at 6 foot 6 inches. I need to select the door because that's the object I want to move. And then once you've done that, you can go into the dimension and change that to the location you want. Okay, so that should take care of all of our passage doors. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put in the overhead door. So again, go to your architecture tab. We'll go to the doors. Now our doors, our overhead door has not been loaded. So we're going to come back in here. And again, just under the doors folder, we're going to see third from the bottom, door overhead sectional. I'm going to select that. I'm going to go ahead and open that. And it's going to give me several options. Well, it looks like just one option, 8 foot by 6 foot 6. Let me go back to our door schedule, which is door number 115. And this is a 9-foot door by 8-foot tall. So I don't have the right door type. So we're going to go through that same process. I'm going to take my 8-foot wide by 6'6" tall. I'm going to hit edit type, duplicate that. I'm going to change this to a 9-foot by 8-foot. And I'm just going to double check that. Okay. So once I've done that, let's see how this door's set up. This is interesting because it doesn't give me the ability to change that width. So typically if that happens, it means you can't change it in the actual type properties. But once we input it here, and notice that depending on which side of the wall I go, it'll flip that. A garage wall, a garage door needs to orientate so the actual door panel's on the inside. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to go back and actually select the door, and what we'll see is I can change my width and my height both at that location in the properties window. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply it. This door again is going to be centered. You can kind of see that my preference of centering things often is just putting them in there, putting in a quick dimension, and then centering it that way. Now I'm going to go to the elevation, the front elevation, because what we're going to see right here is something that's going to be very important when we start looking at windows. And what you'll see right here is this door is an 8-foot door, but you'll see the bottom of that door is actually coming off of the finished floor line. So when I place this, if I come back here to my constraints, my constraint is at main level. Even if I were to come and change this to the foundation plan, you can see that drops it down to the top of the foundation. But remember, because we have a block out, our actual garage door needs to drop down and essentially sit on top of that slab. So I went ahead and I changed my constraint level to foundation plan. But what I need to do, right underneath here where it says sill height, my sill height is my offset from whatever level I'm constrained to. So if you remember, we did our slab, I believe, top of slab was 12 inches down is what that should work out to be. So I'm going to go a -1 foot, and I'm going to go ahead and apply that, and that should take that garage door now down to that lower level. Okay, I'm going to come back here to my 3D plan. And what you can see now is we have, as you navigate through all this, you can see that we've got all of our doors in here. I can tell right now that on this door, I must have selected a flush door and not that 4-panel. So I'm going to come in here really quickly and I'm going to switch that out to my 36-inch 4-panel wood door. And you can see that that's how that substitution works. You can take a look at how that opening looks in there. Okay, so that takes care of our doors now. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is how to input some windows. Now our windows are going to be a little bit more complicated right up front. And that simply is because when we are looking at windows A, B, door number 114. This is a glass door. It's labeled as a door. Sometimes you'll see this actually called out with a window mark. So let's take a look at that door number 114 first. This is a 120-inch which is a 10-foot by 8-foot, 96-inch tall, 4-panel double sliding glass door. Okay, we also have in here windows type A and B, and you're going to have to, on your plans, go down to sheet number 302. That's where your window schedule will be found. So we have windows type A and B, which is an 84-inch by 60-inch triple pane sliding window. Then we got a 72. So basically a 7-foot wide and a 6-foot wide. And where I'm going with all of this simply is these windows aren't all part of our database or our library that we have brought into from the template when we started this project. So what I need to show you guys here really quickly is that I've given you the family type to download, and you'll have to download this directly into your project. So if you have access to Bluebeam Studio, if you go under this course, you'll see that there is a folder titled Revit Components. If I double click on there, you'll see I've input a bunch of components. Now the file type for components in Revit is RFA, and so that's what you're seeing in all of this. So if you have access to Bluebeam, all you're going to need to do is double click on the one you choose, and it will begin the download process. Now I'm going to come back to that in just a second, because if you don't have access to Bluebeam Studio, I've also in D2L, under this course, I've also now created a folder that's called Revit Components. And if you enter into that folder, okay, just hang tight here for a second. Okay, so once you get in there, you can see that I have listed all of these same items. So in our case, for this first door number 114, we're going to select this 4-pane sliding glass door. So if I'm in D2L, I'm going to click right here, and it's going a little bit slow here, but basically what we're trying to do here is we're going to click on there, and okay. So at this point, I clicked on it, I came to this window, I can select download. And for some reason, I'm going to go back. If I remember correctly, that instead of directly clicking on that link, you could right click and hit download. I'm going to test that really quickly here. If I get back here into the Revit components. And while it's going there, I want to take your attention down here to the lower left-hand side. You'll see on the bottom of the browser that the 4-pane sliding glass is downloaded. Now that's downloaded to the download folder of your desktop. Okay, so no, it looks like you're going to have to enter in there and then hit download, just like I showed you. So if I come at this point right here, I can double click. And once I double click that, I'm going to actually go ahead and minimize here. And I'm going to minimize um, uh, uh, Bluebeam Studio. And what you'll see is this window come up. So just really quickly, let me go back to Bluebeam, because this doesn't really change. If you're in Bluebeam and you double click, then at that point, you're going to be back to this place right here. So this window, essentially what's saying is that this family type that we are trying to load was originally created in Revit 2009. Well, we're working out of Revit 2020, and so what's going to have to happen is it's going to have to upgrade the model. So we're just going to go ahead and say upgrade the model, and it usually takes just a minute or two, just depending on the complexity of the model, but it will load it and it will open it in to your Bluebeam. Excuse me, into Revit, into the Revit file that you're working off of. You can see down there at the lower left-hand side that it was processing so much percent complete. And again, depending on the computer you're on, this may go faster versus slower. Since I'm here at my home computer, it's not as efficient as the one I typically work with in my office. Okay, so when you load it and you upgrade it, it will open it up, and it's open it up as that RFA file type. Now, here's the next important thing that we want to do, because we just want to load this into our project. So if you come up here to the top right hand, you'll see there's two icons here: load into the project and load into project and close. If you select load into project, it'll load into the project at this view number 1. It will stay open. In some cases, that might be relevant if you're actually creating the family and family types. But in our case, it's just going to be an extra tab that we'll have open, and we don't really want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just say load into project and close. And what you'll see is this view number will disappear once that loads into the project. And once this loads back up, I need to change my view back to the main level view. Okay, so now that I'm back to the main level view, I got to go back to architecture, and I need to go back to my door. And okay, so here's my 4-panel sliding glass door. And if I look in here, there's several of them there. And if I actually go to my edit type, I've got all kinds of stuff going on here. And here's the thing. This call out up here is actually in millimeters, and we're dealing with SI units. And so I'm not going to worry about a whole lot of that, other than I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to call this a 120-inch by 96-inch. Okay, so if you remember from the schedule, it's 120 inches wide by 96 inches tall. So we're just going to go ahead and say that. And then on my height, I'm just going to go ahead here and I'm going to change that to 8 feet. And my width, I am going to change to something doesn't quite seem right here. I'm going to change that to 10 foot and see what happens. Well, look at that. Looks like it is correct. Okay, so once I've done that, you can see my 4-panel sliding glass door. And again, depending on which side of the wall you are, will give the correct orientation. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get just roughly where it needs to be, and I'm going to click and install it. Okay, let's go back to our plan. And if I look at this, the center line of this is Looks like 7 foot. Yeah, so we're 7 foot off of the back side of each of those walls, so we can see that symmetry once again where it's equal. So if I want to just take a quick dimension, again, it came from that point, center line to that point, hit equal. That should be 7 feet, and it is. Perfect. I'm gonna go back to my 3D view. I just want to take a quick look from the other side here, and yep, that's looking good. Okay, so now we've got the 2 windows here that need to be put in. And those windows, once again, were not created or did not come from the template library. So this time I'm going to go to my window. So architecture tab, go to window, and then we're going to have to, well, I'm going to take a quick look here and we'll see that those windows do not exist. Okay, so this is where we're going to have to go back either to D2L or back to Bluebeam. This time I'm going to go to Bluebeam to do this. And I'm going to look for a window here that's called Slider Triple Pane. So I'm going to double click on there. And that should, I went ahead and minimized it, but I'm going to go ahead and upgrade the model. This time you can see it's being upgraded from Autodesk 2012. And I'm going to load into project and I'm going to close it all at the same time. And again, I'm going to now go back to my, for some reason it takes me to the elevation view, which is fine. So I'm going to go back to my floor plan. Now, what we need to do, or what our task is going to be, to put in a 72 by whatever our height was. And then I think we had an 84. So I need to go back to, I think it was sheet 302. So we've got 72 by 60 and 84 by 60. So it turns out what we loaded in there is the correct, we do have the correct sizes. So now we have got the 84-inch in the bedroom 1 and the 72 in bedroom number 2. So we've got 72, which I believe is from this side. Now this is really interesting because I can't tell which side of the window is which. So I'm going to assume that that is the direction. I'm going to change this to my 84 inches. And I'm going to make sure I install that the same way. What do we have in terms of center? We're 6 foot to center on that side with window B, and we are, appears to be 6'3" to window A. So I'm just going to center these using some quick temporary dimension lines. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one in there and that one in over here. Because I'm not centering them at this point, I just going to get them both there. So I'm going to select the window because that's what I need to move, 6'3". And over here, this window, if I remember correctly, that was 6 foot. Just going to verify that really quick, 6'3" and 6 foot. Let's go ahead and take another quick look at our elevation view. And you can see right here that, okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Yeah, based on what I'm seeing in terms of how a window is typically built, that would be correct. If you look at it right here, you can see the outside panes, which these are on the windows that slide. They're set to the inside of the house, and they would slide open to the inside of the house. And so that's how I'm getting that orientation visually. So the only other thing that I'm seeing is not correct at this point is my window elevation, or the height of my windows. If I come back here to my floor plans or to my drawings, let's go to the elevation right here. And what you'll see is we actually have windows that are set a little bit lower than the top of the 8-foot sliding door. So generally speaking, you probably can anticipate that the top of a window, like a good height, might be like 7 foot. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come back to this window here, and what we can see is we actually have a sill height. Okay, so we got a sill height. I was hoping we had a head height. Oh, here we go, down here, a head height right here. So I'm going to change that head height to 7 foot, apply that, and you'll see that that drops the window on that z-axis down. And I'm going to go over here and change the head height to the other window to 7 foot as well. And you'll see also that that will drop that window down to the correct orientation. So that's the key thing when installing windows, is making sure that you either define what the head height is, or you can define what the sill height is. A 2-foot sill height, that's getting a little bit on the lower side, but with the fact that we have simply where we have such a tall window in 60 inches, that's fairly substantial. Okay, so now that we have those windows in there, let's go ahead and see what else we need to place. I think we have 4 more windows to go. So at this point, let me go back here to the correct drawing. Whoops. Which should be 200. Okay, so we've got windows type C. We actually have 3 window C's and 1 window D. So let's go take a quick look at C and D. So we've got a 48-inch by 48-inch vinyl slider, and then we got a 24 by 36 for window D. All right, so let's come up here to architecture window. We don't have any sliders in there, so I'm going to come over here and check with the load family, and I need to take that back out to US Imperial. Go clear to the bottom of my library for windows, and let's see if we have any sliders that are in here. Sliding 4, sliding double. I'm going to check in Bluebeam Studio here. I may have had a different slider with trim. So I'm going to go ahead and double click and load that again. If you only have access to D2L, go through the process I showed you in D2L, and actually need to cancel out of that. So let me try this again. Okay, so there we are right there. I'm going to load that into my project and close it. Go back to my main level floor, and then right here, that's so it looks like we got a 44 there. So I'm going to go ahead. Now on these windows, it's a little bit easier to tell which side they need to be orientated. So I'm going to quickly put my window in right there, my window in right there. I have a window in right over there. And then we had a 24 by 36. I'm going to double check that. 24 by 36, correct. So that 24 by 36, now I can't remember where it goes. So let me go back to the floor plan. Okay, so that 24 by 36 appears to go somewhere right there. Okay, so a couple really quick things and then this video will be done, is I just want to take a quick look and see how these windows are. So it looks like from the exterior side of each wall on the front, those are 5'2". So again, I like to place temporary dimension lines, go to the center, do the same over to this window, select the window because that's what I want to move, 5'2". Same thing over there, 5'2". Go back to my floor plan. And it looks like we've got 11 foot from the front of the garage. So from that point to the center, select the window to move the window. And then we've got one more window to locate, which from the corner of the house to the center of the window is 5'10". All right, I'm just take one last look here. So that window right here to me appears to be, well, it's kind of hard to tell. It appears to be a little bit smaller than what's being called out. But that could be something that's different from the schedule versus what was actually put onto the plan. So, all right, there you have it. That's how you need about to install the interior and exterior doors and windows. And our next video, I will show you how to start placing components that are not hosted by walls, things like toilets, tubs, cabinets, different things like that. So I will see you then.